All right, welcome everyone. Welcome for our regular City Council meeting for Tuesday, December 12th, 2017, located here at the Veterans Memorial Hall. It is our last meeting for the year, so happy holidays to everybody. For the record, we do have a quorum. All members are present. And Trudy Sylvester, one of our longtime family members associated with the tug service here in Morro Bay, passed away today. Is that right, Eric? Oh. It would be fitting to think about her and her family as we take a moment of silence. Thank you, and if you'll now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome everyone. Next on the agenda, we do have a fairly full agenda, but next on the agenda we have recognition, and I'm going to turn it over to our city manager to lead us off in this.
Yes, I'm very, very excited to present service pins to 7 amazing city employees, and I'd like City Council to join me up at the podium.
Great.
It's an absolute joy and honor to be up here with City Council to recognize 7 amazing city employees who have accumulated milestone years of service with the City of Morro Bay. These individuals represent a broad range of departments, experience, and responsibilities, but each of them hold in common a high standard of professionalism and dedication to the Morro Bay community. With that, I'd like to bring up the employees individually for them to have their well-earned recognition with City Council. So first, I would like to call up Damaris Hansen. So Damaris was hired by the city in August of 2007 and promoted to the Engineer Tech 4 in 2012, and most recently elevated to the Environmental Programs Manager in July of 2016. Thank you for keeping us in compliance with the various state and federal environmental regulations. We appreciate all you do. Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to call up Rod Livick. Rob. Livick? You know, whatever. So, here's your pen. So, Mr. Livick was hired by the city in May of 2007 as a city engineer and promoted to director in July of 2010. Mr. Livick oversees the most complicated department in the city and does it with style and a can-do attitude. Thank you for managing a great department and great staff and finding time to work on the wharf project on the side. Next, I would like to call Dana Swanson to recognize her for her 10 years of service. Thank you so much. So Dana was hired by the city in November of 2007 as a part-time accountant, and the city has had the good sense to promote you many times over during her 10 years of service, landing as the city clerk in June of 2015. Dana, I for one can vouch for the fact that we would be lost without you. Thank you for keeping us all on track, and thank you for your service. We also have four other individuals who weren't able to attend for various reasons, so I'd like to just call out their names and get a round of applause after we go through all four of them. So we have Todd Gailey, who's a fire captain receiving his 15-year service pin. Mark Martin is a corporal with the police department, again, 15 years of service. Walter Rosa, 15-year service pin as a consolidated maintenance 3 employee for Public Works. And last but not least, Stephen Dewar, who's been here for 20 years as our lone IT guy, keeping everything running for us. So I just want to say it's a tremendous pleasure to work alongside all of the city employees, but especially those who have dedicated the better part of their career to Morro Bay. Thank you.
Great presentation, Scott, and congratulations to our employees tonight. Thank you. Next on the agenda, closed session report. Mr. Pannoni.
There were no closed sessions, so there's nothing to report.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. And Mayor, council members' reports and announcements. And I'll just start off tonight. Just want to thank our police department. They've been active over the holidays. They were active in our Thanksgiving dinner. Just wanted to give a shout out to the Thanksgiving dinner and the success and the deliveries that the police department did on that. The haunted house, I was remiss in those thanks at our last council meeting. And of course, they're busy tonight doing the trolley around town, so they've been real busy through the holidays. Just want to give a shout out and thanks for all that. And all of our staff, of course, they've been very, very busy through the holidays, and it's telling throughout town. So just want to give a shout out to all our employees for the hard work through the holidays. And then from a SLOCOG perspective, SLOCOG will be conducting an outreach regarding senior transportation, and that's on December 15th at 11:30 at the Senior Center, right at the Community Center at 1001 Kennedy Way. I would encourage everyone to participate in that. It's important as we gather information for transportation within the city of Morro Bay. And of course, that's open for city council members to attend as well. And that's all I have for announcements. And then I'll turn to Red.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I want to recognize one of our super Morro Bay citizens, Carrie Raya, for the many ways that she contributes to the city. Carrie owns, that's not Carrie. Carrie owns Buttercup Bakery on Morro Bay Boulevard, just downstream from the theater. She started her business in a location that had seen several businesses come and go over the years, and they were all unsuccessful. She has been very successful. It's a growing business. She is employing 8 part-time employees. And she gives back to the community in a lot of ways. She's been host to Coffee with a Cop, one of our chamber mixers, a fundraiser last month to raise money for the Community Foundation of Estero Bay. She is active in every downtown activity, from supporting Morro Bay Friends of the Library to the 12 Days of Christmas. And she's found the successful, or the winning formula for a successful business: high quality food, great service, and fair prices. And you know that'll work for anybody. So I just want to recognize and thank Carrie. And over here on the screen is Joan the Octopus. Gail and I visited the Central Coast Aquarium last weekend in Avila Beach, and we were very impressed with their operation. They have touch tanks, display tanks, educational programs, and a lot of volunteers who are just amazing, enthusiastic, and knowledgeable. And one of the things that we liked was Joan the Octopus. Joan is a giant Pacific octopus, which is the largest species. She's going to grow to a length of 6 feet from the tip of her mantle to her arms, and she'll have an arm span of 15 feet when she grows up. She was donated to the aquarium by a local Morro Bay fisherman who caught her in a prawn trap as a bycatch. She's less than a year old, but she's going to. The octopi grow quickly. The aquarium expects to have her on display for about a year, and then they will bring her back to Morro Bay and release her in the same area where she was caught. Some other slides. Those are that's a tank that has rays and flatfish. That's a tank that has some other kind of fish. A couple of jellyfish tanks. And there, Sydney is hand-feeding red abalone that came from our abalone farm at Estero Point. And there's Santa feeding Joan. Oh, and there's Mrs. Davis with the dive suit that was donated by the Kelsey family. That was operated by that dive suit was used by Mr. Kelsey, Mr. Kelsey's grandfather, diving for abalone, and it's on display now at the aquarium. So this is the aquarium that we hope to bring to Morro Bay. They are trying to raise money to qualify for a loan. And by all means, if you have family visiting this holiday, go over and tour the aquarium. Now I have another slide. Carol Truesdale brought these young people to my attention. They are from Delmar Elementary, under the supervision of Marianne Britton, and they have volunteered to ring the bell for the Salvation Army. The Salvation Army is short of bell ringers this season, so they rang today. There they are. They rang today at Spencer's, and they will be back at Spencer's Thursday from 4 to 6, and they'll be at Albertson's next Monday from 4 to 6. They are all excited to be able to help local families, and Marianne wants us to know that she received permission for all these students to have their pictures shared. They are Julian, Alexander, Connor, Ephraim, Samson, and Maybelline. And if you get a chance, if you have some spare time, I encourage you to volunteer to ring the bell at either Albertsons or Spencer's. You can contact Linda at 610-0853. And if you don't get that number, you can get it from me at any time. Either text or call Linda. Tell her when you want to work. It's having somebody there to ring the bell really brings out the generosity of everybody who walks past. It's a great thing. So, and then last thing, I will do office hours this coming Saturday at Sun and Buns from 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock. So if you have any questions or comments, something you want to say to me in private, come by and see you there. So.
Thanks, Red. Matt?
The other day I was fortunate enough to run into Detective Mark Martin at the gas station, and we were talking about his 15th year celebration of his working for the city, but we're talking about other things that are coming up with the city. And one thing that I would really like to put out there, especially in this time of giving and this holiday season, is this notice, and I'll read it for you. Every year, illegal telemarketing and mail fraud schemes rob consumers, often elderly citizens, of their hard-earned life savings. If someone contacts you or a loved one with an unsolicited offer, don't give your financial information to callers you don't know. Don't be pressured into making an immediate decision. Get all the information in writing before you agree to a purchase. So given our population here in Morro Bay, it's very key that we take care of everyone, from our youngest who are ringing the bell, the Salvation Army, to our elderly, and helping them, protect them against fraud. So after talking with Detective Mark Martin, I really appreciate that, and that's kind of an FYI.
Thanks, Matt. John?
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the meeting tonight. I wanted to just remind you all of, not that you need reminding, but there is a major fire or fires occurring to the south of us, and much devastation, significant loss of many things with regard to people's properties and their possessions and just tremendous devastation. And so just a reminder to keep those folks in your thoughts. We've had some displaced people that have been here in Morro Bay staying. I don't know if you knew that, but many of them are at this point homeless and staying with either relatives or friends or those that have taken them in here locally. One of the reasons I bring it up is that we've had some air quality alerts in this county, San Luis Obispo County. 2 days ago, you probably saw the sky turn a different color. Fortunately, it was very high, but the warnings have been at a level of PM5, which are about 2.5 microns, which are very significant for anybody with respiratory diseases. And we have posted on Facebook and a number of other social media sites the warnings put out by the Air Quality or the Air Pollution Control District on a daily, almost daily basis. So I just want to remind you, if you do have respiratory illnesses, asthma, bronchitis, COPD, any upper respiratory problems, that you can find those alerts at APCD, that's Air Pollution Control District for San Luis Obispo. Just Google that, and you can sign up for their daily report, and they will report not only what the particulate matter levels are, but what you can do. And there was a recommendation today for some NP95 masks for those that had respiratory illness, and so and locations where you could get that. I do call that to your attention. Not only the devastation, but also the need to watch your own health and be cognizant of those warnings. My thanks also to the folks that volunteered at the Thanksgiving dinner. My wife and I had the opportunity to attend. It was absolutely fantastic this year, as I hear it is every year. It was our first year attending. Great service, great fun, great music, and great food. I got to tell you, it was just wonderful. So thanks to Nancy and all of her crew, and what a great job they did for the community, as they do every year. The cops were caroling in my neighborhood last night. What a cool thing to see. Police cars driving by and not stopping at my house, which is pretty exciting for us. But sing along with them as they come by. There's a schedule of where they will be nightly, and soon to come to your neighborhood, I'm sure. But what a fun thing that is, and what a great thing on the part of our police department chief, and what you're doing to connect with the community. We appreciate that greatly. And last but not least, happiest of holidays to all of you. Be safe and enjoy friends, family, and just a wonderful time this holiday, and we'll look forward to next year as well. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Marlis?
Yeah, well, good evening, everyone. I don't really have any announcements, but I would like to first just ditto John and the mayor's comments about the Thanksgiving celebration. That was fabulous. I was also there, and I do want to thank all of the volunteers. I was so impressed by that event. It's a great tribute to the folks in our community that we're willing to help out and share like that. The other thing I want to do is thank our new city manager, Scott, for what is a great new format for his city manager report, which he provides to council on a regular basis, but it is now available on the website, and I would encourage all of you to go look at it. It's great news about all of our various departments, new employees, etc. It's a great way to keep up with what's going on in the city. So I urge you to do that. And then I also want to wish you a happy holidays, and we'll see you next year.
Great, Marlis. Thanks. Just one more question for our fire marshal. Sorry, Matt, but in regards to the fire, how many guys do we have from our department rotating through and through the holiday season? You know, just our thoughts with them. Maybe you can explain how that's going.
Thank you. At this time, we have 1 engine and 4 personnel down at the fire. The fire will probably be continuing on for quite some time. It's moving into the National Wilderness Forest outside of Santa Barbara. So we can see this going on for a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks at least. So our crews, every time they'll work anywhere from 10 to 14 days, and then they'll rotate out. So 4 will go down and relieve them. 4 will come home, rest a little bit, and get back on the engine at home, and we'll keep rotating that way. The fire chief is down there at this time. He should be back by the weekend. That's what we're hoping for. Okay. And yeah, the fire, they're trying to keep it out of Santa Barbara. They're moving it into the wilderness and the forest. They're opening up another incident command post on the Lake Kachuma side tomorrow to see if they can keep going that way.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the fire team.
Sure.
Thanks. Thank you. And with that, one more for city manager's update.
Yes.
Scott?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to give a brief update on the animal shelter. As council may recall, the city of Paso Robles and Atascadero had individually voted to get out of the animal shelter agreement, the one that had been working towards for several years. The agreement was set up to collectively fund a much-needed new animal shelter for the county. Thankfully, the county has intervened and has created a subcommittee of elected officials and staff for Atascadero, Paso Robles, and the county to try to come up with a compromise measure that doesn't compromise the jurisdictions who have been all in from the beginning. That includes Morro Bay. So the intent is for them to work together in good faith and come up with a resolution by January. So I will keep City Council and the community informed on that front. And then just one other note of mention for the Thomas Fire. Over 230,000 acres have burned in the month of December. And that is an incredible statement alone. I mean, typically you see something like this in the fall at the latest. And we're talking December. And the governor has gone out so far to say this is our new normal. And so thankfully in the county of SLO, we have a tremendous mutual aid system and coordination amongst all the agencies and take care of one another. But this is something that potentially we could be dealing with this year or next year. So just thankful for the fire department and the work that they do across the county.
Great. Thanks, Scott. And with that, next thing on the agenda, as we move forward, we've got a presentation. We have a presentation of award by Morro and Bloom, and we're going to invite the Morro Bloomies up, Mr. Heath, and I think the City Council is going to join you down that. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. All right. Come on up, Mont Walter.
Hi, it's a party. What are the canapes? So good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Walter Heath, Morro Bay residents, and I'm joined tonight by the volunteers and friends of Morro Bay and Bloom. And it's a very happy occasion tonight, so we can present you some of the awards that the city of Morro Bay has earned from America in Bloom. That's why we're here tonight, to bring those with us. The city of Morro Bay received the highest evaluation score of any of the cities in its population category in 2015, 2016, and 2017. And that score is on a 1,000-point scale in the areas of floral displays, landscaped areas, urban forestry, environmental efforts, historical preservation, and then the overall impression of the town, lack of graffiti, lack of litter, all those kinds of things. And so for the last 3 years running, the city of Morro Bay has won its population category, which is a significant accomplishment. And those awards are represented by the little plexiglass flower pots you see here, and they've all been engraved for each of the years which we've won. The numbers have shifted a little bit. Every year our population category is a little different to fit a number of cities in it. But basically we've won against cities larger than us and against cities smaller than us. And By virtue of the fact that we have won 3 population category awards, we are now in the America in Bloom Circle of Champions, which means that we now no longer compete among cities in our population category. We compete against the other champions, the others that have achieved either 3 population category awards or some combination of a special category award and a population category award. So in order to kind of clear this category of Morro Bay, because we keep winning, we're now going to be competing against cities that are much larger than us, have rain, have actual beautification budgets. So we may not be up here for a while. It may take a while. I mean, when you're up against a city like Holland, Michigan that plants 500,000 tulip bulbs every October, you know, our chances of winning, but we will do our best. We will do our best. The significance of this is that it's always nice to have good news, right? I mean, it's always nice to be able to celebrate things in the midst of all the challenges that we face. And these awards are Morro Bay's. They're the city of Morro Bay's. They are not Morro Bay in Blooms. They're for you. And when you go to the National Symposium and you see the joy with which city staff and the mayors receive these awards, you'd really be impressed. So we want you to have these, and we'll leave them with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Good
bet.
job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Matt. Let's put it in the box.
All right, great.
This way you can have it.
And nice little columns.
There you go. We can leave those with the city clerk. Thank you.
Okay, sweet. Okay, good.
All right. Thank you, Morro Bay and Bloom. Thanks, Walter. Great work. Great to celebrate with you all, and great to receive the award on behalf of the city. And with that, we'll move on to public comment. I think we've got one person to invite up for start off our public comment first. Just one moment, and then.
Which way do I turn? Speak into the mic. Do I face them or do I face you? Okay.
Pull that mic down, yeah.
I'm not too used to this because I've got to read off a chart here, and you know, Santa's got his own spirit, so I'll try to rush it. Please arrive at no. That's a little bit okay. Happy holidays and Hanukkah. Ho 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 to all folks at Good Morro Bay. Thank you so much for letting us stay. 12 days of fun. Thanks for the sun. We don't want to leave you, especially today. I'll miss boats and cruises and snow with my bruises. Ho, ho, ho for the snow. 'Twas such a fine show. Paddles and tall ships, caroling cops, trees that were lidded in so many shops, gingerbread houses and crawling for fun. We had the best time. Events one by one. Ho, 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 says Santa. Now we must go to our home in the north, back to our snow. Toys and your goodies await to be played. I've collected your list and we'll get each toy made. Xboxes, dolls, so many more. You see, Santa's busy with each little chore. We love Morro Bay, especially our house. Will you save it for next year? I especially like the fire from my cold spouse. Morro Bay winter, oh what a feast. See you next year. Can I be your guest? Goodbye for now as we pack up and leave to bring you what's special. You'll love Christmas Eve. I am off on a very big ship that will help me to fly right back to my slip. So turn toward the sky and wave Santa goodbye. Happy holidays. I'd like to say off the record, this was given to me, but I have never seen a community so well. I mean, I have been received here as Santa Claus in all the communities and everything. I love it here. I want to come back next year. I kind of feel like I've been here for a while. So thank you very much, everybody, gents and ladies. And I will return. I've already sent everything to Miss Claus. We love it here. Bring the joy and love. You people are doing really great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Claus. Okay, next up for public comment, we're going to welcome Bonnie Shirky up as the business spot as we go into public comment, and then I'll read the speaker slips. Come on up, Bonnie. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and friends. Thank you for the opportunity for me to introduce myself and my new business. I am Bonnie Shirky, and I have the Boutique Etc. 805. We are a small, local, owner-operated store offering a personal, unique shopping experience. We specialize in art, jewelry of many kinds, sea glass, silver, mosaics, and wedding sets. Furniture, new and recycled. Soaps, olive oil, Italian seasoning, and soy candles. Also, many items from 13 local artisans are in our local store. Our location is at 409 Zanzibar, North Morro Bay, off Main Street. Our special holiday hours are Monday through Friday, 1 to 6, and weekends, 10 to 6. We have layaway, free gift wrap. You can view our goods on Facebook and Instagram. And we don't have a sign because we are conforming to the rules of Morro Bay in a residential area, so you have to look for our address. Thank you for your time, and we hope you have a happy holiday.
Thanks, Bonnie. With that, public comment will be open. This is for public comment for items not on the agenda. So I've got a list of about 7 public comment speaker slips. First one up, Nancy Castle, and then Rigmore. Nancy?
I stepped on my shoelace, so I have to be careful. Good evening, Council and staff and everybody behind me and everybody out there in TV land. Thank you for the thank yous. I want to remind everyone that saying thank you and Thanksgiving often is just plain good for the soul. And I have a letter that I'd like to read to thank everybody who participated. The annual Morro Bay Community Thanksgiving Dinner was another rollicking success thanks to all the numerous volunteers who organized, located, purchased, cooked, decorated, served, and cleaned up. A tip of the hat goes to Craig Gossard and Chuck Stoll, the tireless kitchen managers and cooks who are supported by members of the Morro Bay Lions Club, the Cayucas Lions Club, members of Morro Bay Rotary, and various kind-hearted souls who make this town a better place. Music was again provided by John and Mary Ellen Knoll, with some folks coming just to hear the music. We served 273 in the hall, plus at least 50 volunteers. We provided walk-ins with 120 meals to go, some for friends and family, some for later for themselves. Our wonderful police officers and the police volunteers delivered over 100 meals into the community, and there was enough of everything to feed 100 at the following Monday night meal at the Vets Hall. All told, over 600 meals were served. Pretty amazing. We couldn't have done it without the support of service organizations and the local businesses. The Lions Club of Morro Bay and Cayucas absolutely rocked, along with Morro Bay Rotary members. The city of Morro Bay was well represented by the marvelous crew that runs the recreation services, the police department, and the city is consistently supportive. Maria at Mi Casa Restaurante Mexicano on Upper Morro Bay Boulevard helped procure needed goods. Other goods and services were donated by Casa de Flores, Cookie Crock, Albertsons, Mission Linen, Kitzman Culligan Water, ASP Reprographics, Top Dog Coffee, St. Peter's by the Sea Episcopal Church, AGP video, Morro Bay Seniors, Morro Bay Beautiful, Morro Bay Community Garden, and the Guerrilla Gardening Club. Featured, of course, at the event was a 7-foot-tall turkey, which I'd hoped was going to be done by this year's Thanksgiving, but a couple of months before Thanksgiving, I realized it's definitely a 2-year project. It's now roosting over at St. Peter's. It's available for viewing if anybody wants to go see it. It has piano keys on it and guitars and, a variety of things, and it'll get even better as the year goes by. I'm incredibly grateful to everyone. We serve over 600 people. It costs about $2,500 to do it. Donations came in from a variety of sources. We have a little nest egg for next year. If anyone would like to donate, they can do it through St. Peter's. Thank you.
Rigmore, please. And then Ken Green.
I guess we will excuse her going over the 3 minutes.
Just by a skosh, Rigmore.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Rigmore, resident of Morro Bay. First, I want to welcome our new city manager, and then I want to thank you all a lot for voting to go fast forward with the sewer plant at the South Bay location. We lost some traction not building at the Rigetti site, which may already have increased our future sewer bill some, so please, please do not slow down to where we could lose our WIFIA loan and therefore then would have to go for conventional financing, which in that case we all know would add a lot of increased cost to our sewer bills. You have already patiently, above and beyond, listened to all of us residents for years on these sewer issues. You were close to becoming doormats instead of decision makers. It is time to close your ears and move fast forward. Thank you, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas, och jag önskar er alla en väldigt god jul. Thank you.
Thanks, Rigmore. Ken Green, and then Catherine Thomas.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff members, TV land, thank you, Nancy. I would like to address the financial reporting issue that has been floating around for quite a while, and particularly say thanks for the reporting that has appeared in the supportive documents for this meeting, this meeting's agenda, and for the letter that Mr. Collins put together and is part of the city documents at this point. I've been hoping to see a rundown of the city budget periodically with each budget item compared to the expenditures that are occurring, at least quarterly, preferably monthly. But this is the first time that I've seen a nice rundown done with respect to the water reclamation facility, and it's a great step forward, and I'm delighted to say thank you unreservedly. And I should say that if this is a sign of what we can expect from Mr. Collins and Ms. Campbell, let's hear it for the Killer Seas. This is great.
All right. Thanks, Ken. Catherine Thomas, and then Sandy Tandler.
Greetings, everybody. I haven't been here in about a year and a half, and I've been in San Diego and LA for the past week, so my chest is full of smoke, so I'm not going to talk very long. I know you'll appreciate that. I have a handout. I don't know, Dana, did you give it to him? Okay, I have a handout. This is to go over what happened since we got permanent pickleball courts in July of 2016 and what happened during the year between then and June of 2017. And if you take a look at it, I'll just go briefly over a couple of things. We've had 3 tournaments. We've had 2 pickleballs in the park, which is when we bring pros up. We have anywhere from 150 to 200 people attend that. We've had we have dedicated hours from 9 to 12 on Monday through Saturday, and we take sign-ups, meaning the people have to sign in because they play by our rules and they use our balls and they use paddles, etc. And in that amount of time, that 1 year period, we've had over 10,000 sign-ins. So, and that's just during dedicated hours. If you go by the park, most days you will see players in the afternoon. The courts are usually filled. We thank you for approving them because we love them. We've become a showcase for other courts, and we're invited all over to talk about our courts. We have ages right now. Our youngest is 11, and our oldest is 84. The 11 and 12-year-old are brother and sister, and they were part of some clinics we gave to Del Mar Elementary and to Los Osos, and they brought their parents and grandparents, so we have 3 generations, which brings me to the next topic. We've been featured in the USA Pickleball Association National Magazine. Again, I gave you, I think 5 of you got a copy of that. This was an article we had in that magazine in the last few months. We were also featured in the RV National Newsletter, and that was this one, which is, I don't have copies of it for everybody, but anyway, we were in there, so you know. And then our 3 Generations was featured in the Western Regional Newsletter, and that's this one. What's happened is we are now averaging 30 to 60 players a day, just during our dedicated hours. So honestly, we've sort of stopped advertising because we've gotten, the word is spread, we're very popular, and if any of you have not been out to at least see the courts, I hope you will, and hopefully you'll come out on Saturday morning at 9 for a clinic. They're all free, we provide all the equipment, all you gotta have to do is have court shoes. Thank you very much for approving them. We're doing great, and we love it. And I'm getting hoarse, so I'm going to leave. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks for all your work. Sandy Tandler, and then Erica Crawford.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Tandler, and I live in Morro Bay. I'm here this evening representing the Central Coast Taxpayers Association and the No on Gas Tax. We have a coalition of 13 organizations who are behind the No on Gas Tax. And if you care to know who those people are, you can go to ccta.news. I am happy to announce we have the No on Gas Tax petition at last. There are signature gatherers outside at the local markets and gas stations for the next 4 weeks in Morro Bay, Los Osos, San Luis, Atascadero, Paso Robles, and Templeton. You can also go online to reformcalifornia.org and get petitions. There are 2 places for people to sign and mail it back in. We have had an overwhelming response since we got the petitions 2 weeks ago. This will be an initiative constitutional amendment to repeal the gas tax that came out November 1st, 2017, and in January, the DMV fee will start to make certain the state government cannot give us another tax without our voting for it, as it should be in a republic. I also have a copy of a letter from Assemblyman Jordan Cunningham written to Rhonda Carley of SLOCOG on April 4th, 2017, explaining how he had co-authored AB 496, the Traffic Relief and Road Improvement Act, that would have been the correct solution to our road repairs. With $7.8 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars provided for the state's transportation needs by ending the state's practice of raiding transportation funds and using them for other purposes. Unfortunately, the majority in Sacramento would not put this to a vote and chose to give us the largest tax on gas and cars in our history. There are those that say, but we need our roads repaired no matter the cost. Well, Assemblyman Cunningham and others have the solution at no cost to the forgotten taxpayer, but we were ignored. And one more thing, the majority in Sacramento are unhappy about this petition, so they have decided, while they have already set aside our tax dollars for other projects and roads and road repair, they will dribble money out to the cities and counties until after the November election in 2018, fooling people into thinking their tax dollars will actually go toward the road and street repairs. They are so afraid this petition will pass once it is on the ballot. Don't be fooled. They have had our money for a long time for road and street repairs, and it's gone to pensions and the bullet train. The DMV fee starts in January 2018. Remember, you can go online to reformcalifornia.org and get the petition or sign the petition wherever you see people at the supermarkets, gas stations, Walmart in our town, Los Osos, Atascadero, Paso Robles, SLO, and Templeton. And thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Oh, and Lori has some things to pass out to you.
Thank you. Erica Crawford, and then Jamie Parker.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and City staff. I'm Erica Crawford with the Chamber of Commerce. First, I'd just really like to recognize some of the businesses who have been celebrating the season visibly by investing in decorations. I think they're investing not only in the beautification of our downtown in Embarcadero, but also in our public safety, and recognize the police officers who helped us keep safe during the Santa Crawl, and it was really quite an event. And also encourage our businesses and residents to display a blue light in honor of our men and women in blue through the month of December. My primary purpose is to talk about our annual dinner. The Chamber does an annual awards dinner. Since 1975, I think, we've been recognizing Morro Bay's Living Treasure and Citizen of the Year. This year we're celebrating with a Fire and Ice Hollywood theme. Should be really fun. The community is invited. It's not just the business community, and everyone is invited. The event will take place on January 26th at the Community Center. Honorees of the Citizen of the Year and the Living Treasure will be publicly recognized by elected officials at the event and also in local press surrounding the event. Some past honorees of these awards include outstanding citizens like Hank Roth, Dan Riddell, Nancy Castle, Bertha and Dean Tyler, Janice Peters, Bill Pierce, Ken Vesterfelt, and Bonnie Johnson, to name just a few. I think we counted over 80 since 1975 who have been honored. Nomination forms like this that are up are in the back of the room, but we can very easily nominate online. So we can go to surveymonkey.com/r/community honorees. It's a very easy, simple survey. Nominations can also be turned in person at 695 Harbor or emailed to info@morrochamber.org. The deadline to submit is this Sunday, the 17th. I feel like we work not for recognition, but we work, we happen to do work worthy of recognition. And I think in our community, quite a lot of people fall into that category. So I really encourage everybody to please nominate a citizen living in the spirit of Morro Bay this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. Next, Jamie Parker.
Good evening, Mayor. Oh, this is loud. City Council members, officials, and the community. I'm Jamie Parker from the Otter Rock Cafe. I've owned and operated the Otter Rock for 16 years, and I've just changed my hours for winter, so I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm open Wednesday and Thursday from 12 to 8, Friday, Saturday, Sunday from 4 to close, and we still have live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I wanted to invite the community to come out to our fundraiser benefit concert. Not this Saturday, next Saturday, the 23rd. I'm raising money for the Thomas Fire victims, and all the proceeds go to the Red Cross. I rallied up 6 bands. Kenny Lee Lewis from the Steve Miller Band is going to close it. There's going to be a $15 donation at the door with raffle tickets. I've rallied over 30 businesses in Morro Bay to donate some gift certificates for a silent auction. There'll be a 50-50 drawing, and I'm very grateful the community has come together to sponsor and provide and donate for this. It's very sad. I've had some friends and family up into San Luis on Sunday night. They had to evacuate their homes, and it's very close to us. It's kind of like our neighbors. And my goal is to raise $10,000. I raised $5,000 for Katrina in 5 hours, and so I extended this for 10 hours. So I'm thinking I could do $10,000 in 10 hours since I did $5,000 in 5 hours. And I would just like to thank everyone who's helped me so far, and I hope to see everybody there. Thank you.
Jamie, the day and time again, please.
December 23rd, 12 p.m. The first band starts at 12:30, and then each band's probably going to play for an hour, and the last one is at 8 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Anne Marie Schnetzer. And then Cynthia Hawley.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and staff. I recently learned of the error in the sewer fund balance. I read this in a document a few days ago, and it is both, of course, concerning that we're making mistakes, but that we are human, but also...
Anne-Marie, I'm sorry, can you stop?
Very reassuring. Thank you.
Thank you.
As the error was caught by staff and divulged to the City Council and the citizens of Morro Bay, and the record was corrected, so thank you. It appears to me that the Chief Financial Officer and the City Manager are doing their job, and they are doing it very well, so congratulations to both. Morro Bay groups like CAL and MBAT have in the past been pushing for getting professional financial documents and accurate accounting, so it is happening. The goal is to objectively assess budget, availability, cost, expenses, real balances, so we can pay for a sewer project that we can afford. I know you have taken some decisions already, but let's hope that in the future it will fit our needs and our means. We continue to ask for a reasonably priced plant. We know we need a new plant. None of us wants to face failure in this endeavor. The 218, I understand, is coming this next June. I just read this. Please provide us with a viable solution, not one that will be stopped in its tracks. I wish to suggest some steps to continue to get onto firmer grounds, firmer fiduciary grounds. Please give us a monthly and timely budget document that is self-explanatory, so that we can read it and understand it. To make this the norm, could you please agendize right now the fiscal reports as we previously requested? We are eager to secure minutes of these meetings also. We would like the minutes of these meetings. We would like them within 2 weeks after the meetings take place, not 2 months later. Motion, for instance, are often muddles, and we do not hear the same things at the same time, it appears to me. So when preparing the agenda, also I asked that previously, could you please prioritize the items with giving early ranks to the subjects that are most important financially? For instance, the water sewer project should be really number one. It's the biggest project, the most expensive that Morro Bay ever had to face, and it is always at the end of your agenda. Waiting till the end for it is, I think, counterproductive. Everyone is either tired or has left. We want a meaningful participation, not just lip service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Cynthia Hawley, and then Betty Winholtz.
Good evening. I'm Cynthia Hawley with an open letter to the City Council on behalf of the Morro Bay Action Team. Dear Mayor Irons and Council members McPherson, Heading, Davis, and Makowetsky, as you know, approvals of land use projects in California require noticed public hearings. What amounts to an approval is the subject of statute and case law. Under the California Environmental Quality Act, approval of a land use project is defined as the decision by a public agency which commits the agency to a definite course of action in regard to a project. According to court cases, the commitment must be irrevocable, which depends on whether the agency has committed itself to the project so as to effectively preclude any alternatives. If a project approval is contingent upon SEQR review or land use permit, the commitment would not be irrevocable. Project approval is exactly what happened at the November 14, 2017 council meeting, when you approved the contract for nearly $1.5 million with Waterworks engineers related to the WRF lift station and offsite pipelines project. You committed the city to a definite course of action that is spelled out in detailed project description and in specific tasks from design to completion of construction, including construction engineering, review and tracking of the construction documents, support with easement acquisition, weekly job site meetings, observation of the operational test of the lift station, and final inspection of the constructed facilities. Under case law, this definite course of action is an irrevocable commitment because there is no discussion of the project being contingent upon any future event, not CEQA compliance or consistency with the Morro Bay Local Coastal Program. However, no one knew this project approval was going to take place because, in violation of the Brown Act, it was agendized as a business item limited to design and engineering services. The project description was buried in the contract and scope of work, and the decision to approve the project was presented as a decision to approve a contract. Under the law, it is the content, not the title or name, that determines what a document is. Because this action did not appear on the proposed agenda, the rest of this letter is submission of a Brown Act cure and correct letter based on Government Code Section 54954.2, which mandates that, quote, no action or discussion shall be undertaken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Betty Winholtz.
My name's Betty Winholtz, and I'm here to speak to you about your last item because I will not be here. I believe it's item C3. And it's with regard to some of the committees that you appoint. And in particular, it's about the Recreation and Parks Commission. And I want you to know that I'm very hurt as a resident of Morro Bay what you're doing to our Parks and Recreation Commission. I don't know if you understand that commissions under state law have special status. And when this city formed commissions and boards, it particularly made the Planning Commission, which is by law, but it also made the Rec and Parks Board a commission because this town values and sees as a quality of life issue its parks and its recreational activities. And what you're proposing to do this evening, and I think it's curious that it's under Ms. Swanson's name when I think it was a subcommittee of Ms. McPherson and Mr. Irons, but what's being recommended by the two of you is that we actually reduce even further what has already been reduced by this commission. So let me remind you that a couple of years ago when we had a full Rec and Parks Commission with a full complement of 7 people, that their job was not only recreational activities or sports activities, but the care and oversight of our parks. And under Mr. Buckingham, when he fired, or however you want to say, he got rid of our Parks and Rec director, that board did not meet for a full year during 2016, I believe. And in other words, it was completely ignored. Our parks and everything, the public input for that was gone. And when it was reinstituted, it was brought back and it was divided, the services that that commission provided, into just recreational things, and a lot of stuff went over to Public Works. I just can't tell you how that demeans our attitude towards this quality of life thing that we have in Morro Bay. You know, we have about 8 major parks, besides all the little tiny major parks along the Embarcadero. And we're a city of 10,000 people. Los Osos, a city of more than 15,000 people, has 1 park. And yet we have 8+ parks, all of which are very valuable to us. We love being outdoors. We don't have yards here. They're where we go to play. So I'm asking you, rather than reduce the number of people on Parks and Rec, and rather than have them meet every other month, that you give them back their full complement, which they were 2 years ago, give them back their responsibilities, and let's bring back the Rec and Park Commission under a Recreation and Parks Director that can actually take care of this resource. Thank you.
Thanks, Betty. Paula Radke.
Hello, my name is Paula Radke. I live in Morro Bay.
I just wanted to talk about, and it's already been brought up, but why it's taking 6 weeks to get minutes approved and published on the website. We really need that information a little bit quicker. Another issue that I'd like to bring up is your motions. They do get muddled. We're using that word a bit, but we're sitting back here and completely are not getting it. It's really important that these be repeated for everybody's benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. I don't have any more speaker slips for this item for public comment. With that, I'll close public comment and bring it back to council. There are a couple comments as far as financial reporting, and I know there's been the request for agendizing that item, and I think at the last meeting during future agenda items and discussion with Mr. Collins, that is actually on our agenda for January, so we're going to have that discussion in January. So to respond to agendizing that, it is on the agenda to have our financial reports come forward, and that'll be in January. Any other comments? Red, do you have any comments on the rec or anything like that? Is our liaison to that?
No, I don't. I think that the staff report speaks for itself.
Okay, we'll get into that discussion then. Any others as far as some of the public comment that was any responses?
Would you like to have Mr. Pannone address Cynthia Hawley's concerns?
Since it was presented just this evening, I would appreciate a time to be able to review the letter and provide a report to you after I've done that review.
As far as cure and correct? Is it
correct?
Yeah, okay, thanks. Anything else?
John? Maybe we could respond to two individuals' comments regarding the availability of minutes in a more timely fashion. And then, Mayor, also the issue of either having the motions read back or repeated so that the audience could clearly hear motions that are made by council. And those two issues were, I think, brought up twice tonight and in the past as well.
In response to the, I think the motions, I think that's on us. I think we've gone through some exercise of, hey, can we repeat that? And sometimes we, as a council, I think that comment is directed at us for us to make corrections on that, whether it's from me as mayor to help facilitate that, or as the motion maker, we may take our motions in chunks rather than one long one, and I think that's something that we recognize, and I think with that comment we can take that on as well. Okay, and then as far as minutes, I know that minutes, and I'll just speak to that, and maybe Scott will as well. I think the minutes, at least in my experience, they depending on the workload and some things, sometimes the minutes take a little bit longer to get out than other times. But I don't think there's any one distinction that says we're not doing the work to get our minutes out. I know sometimes, especially during the holidays and when it falls on times where it's one meeting a month or some things like that, that it takes a little while to get those minutes out. But maybe, Mr. Collins, you might want to have some other words to that.
Yes, it is important that we get minutes out as soon as we can. And observing Ms. Swanson and other staff in our office, they work incredibly hard. They work more hours than they should. And they support not only the council, but other boards and commissions in doing everything they can to get the information out to the public, responding to numerous public records requests that take a significant amount of time to respond to, as they should, to make sure that we respond fully and comprehensively to get that information out to the public. So I would say they're doing an excellent job. We will try to work harder and see what we can do about as far as prioritizing getting that information out as quickly as we can.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's a tough one. I know it does. There are periods where it's really, really quick in response to that, and sometimes when it takes a little bit longer, it is just a product of the workload that the city has. And being in City Hall, I just recognize that for the staff's work, and in addition to the public records requests that may come in that would add quite a bit of work to respond to something like that. So thanks.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask a question? I'm just curious to know when the video is posted on the website of our meetings, because I know that I have been able to look at the meetings if I had a particular issue a lot quicker than waiting for the minutes. So I'm just curious if that's done fairly quickly.
Generally, we receive the DVD from AGP Video by Friday and try to have it on YouTube by Monday or Tuesday of the next week.
Okay. And with that, I conclude the public comment and move on to the next item on the agenda. Our next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. I don't have any speaker slips for this item or any of the consent items, so I'll looking out to the audience for any public comment. Seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring it back to council for the consent agenda. I think there's A10 I'd like to pull, and any others for council?
I'd like to pull A11.
A10, A11.
I'd like to pull A6 and A9.
A6 and A9.
And A12.
And A12. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, with that, I would take a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda, with the exception of A10, A11, A6, A9, and A12.
So moved.
Second.
So motion by Ms. McPherson, second by Mr. Heading. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. We'll go through the items and then just do a motion at the end for all the items as we go through them. And I'll just go in the order of that number. A6, is that you, Matt?
Yes, sir. This is a question for you, Scott. I've already emailed you, Scott, but I thought it was important to kind of put this out there in terms, and this was about A6 in terms of the general plan and LCP. And looking forward, and we're amending the date of when these projects will be finished, correct? And then there's a listing in the description under this item and the number of meetings that will be held. And so my question to you was, will this be enough time to get these two plans done by September 2018?
Our timeline currently has us completing the task of the general plan LCP update and zoning code update in August of 2018. So September would be fine. We're looking to hit that, and that's what we're aiming for. Is that there is a little bit of wiggle room in when things are due. We have deliverables based on all of the grant funding that we have. Half of this project's grant funded, $600,000 worth, and our grant funding deliverables are due by December. So there would be additional time if we needed it, but that's the absolute drop dead date as things stand right now. Otherwise, we'd owe money back to the Coastal Commission and potentially the Ocean Protection Council. So I think that's what the timeline's for August, and so September should give us a little bit of extra time there, and we should be good.
And does that timeline include when would presentation to Coastal come, at that August or September?
So that would be when it's to council for adoption, and then we would send it off for certification to the Coastal Commission, and that could take some time.
All right, thanks.
So if we did get it done in August, then that would give them a little bit of time before even our finalized deadline. But the deliverable is really just to have it ready, approved by the city, and then handed to them.
No, the reason I wanted to bring it up, being how significant this is for the city going forward, and then how expensive it is, and I just wanted to make sure, since we're extending the timeline, that we can cover it, and then make sure that we can use the money properly. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'll just make one quick comment. Rescinding, this is recognizing that we had a resolution in place that under a current timeline, recognizing that we didn't meet that timeline and that we did add additional meetings. It just was prudent to recognize the resolution in of itself and establish a new resolution with that. So good discussion. Any other questions on that? Seeing none, okay, we'll take a motion at the end. If we can move on to the next one, item A9.
This was a question, Rob, that I had for you, talking about the Black Hill Villas project. The number of sites that are going to be included for building on that project. And then my question to you was, is there low-income contingencies for some of the housing to be for lower income people in that project?
I'm going to turn it over to Scott to answer the second half first, because it's part of the planning approvals for the project has an affordable component per our code.
Okay. I'm sorry. On the item was Rob's name, but you're right. This part of the question is for you, Scott.
Certainly, the subdivision has 16 lots, and 2 of those are for affordable housing at the moderate rate is how it was approved. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and then 810. 810, I asked to pull this item, and I think is the copy of the resolution in the back for public record as well. So I just asked council to consider the changes in the resolution that's printed and handed out to council members. There's copies in the back. It just adds a little bit additional information, identifies that in 2016-17 that we allocated $100,000 for the ADA assessment, and then it ties together the 43 that remained, and then the items and what we were going to do with that. I just wanted to spell out a little bit more detail to that resolution. So if there are any other questions, I was just going to ask to adopt this amended resolution as presented. Any comments or questions? None? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, and then we'll just put that up to approve at the end. And then item A11?
A11, yeah, that's me. I asked to pull this, and I did send Scott a fairly lengthy list of questions about it, in part because I have concerns about the contract itself and also about whether or not we want to go with a broker as opposed to an RFP process, which is what we originally were planning on doing with this project. And so if I can just ask some of these questions of Scott first, if that's all right. Well, and maybe you could give us a little bit of background, because we originally, I believe there was an RFP that was written, and then you decided to go with a broker, and that broker changed his mind, and so now this is a new broker contract. Is that basically cover it?
That's correct. I did prepare an RFQ to go out on this, and then sort of delayed releasing it because of the workload in my department. When you release an RFQ, you need to be responsive to inquiries that come along if we're going to be successful. I had concern about that, given the general plan LCP zoning code updates, that I would be able to be as responsive as I needed to be. And while that was happening, a broker approached me and voiced interest in potentially representing the project. And so talked with him about that, and we were working toward a contract for that service, at which point the individual decided not to move forward. And so we looked toward another broker, and that would be Stafford McCarty. Steve McCarty is in the audience this evening. Back there somewhere. I saw him walk in earlier. Anyway, there he is, just hand right there. He's been a broker in the county for many years. He's worked on lots of similar projects. He's familiar with working with governments, which is important because some folks out there aren't.
And why would this be a preferable approach to going with the RFQ? I understand the staff issue, but if we could find somebody to help you out with responding to inquiries, why would the going with a broker be preferable to an RFP?
The RFQ process, we'd be putting on the city's website and other bid posting sites. You don't see a lot of projects like this on those types of sites, so I don't know that we'd be reaching the largest audience. Going with a broker, you have access to the MLS, LoopNet, all the commercial listing sites that they use. Steve McCarty's been a real estate broker for, again, many years and has lots of contacts out there. So you get access to that you wouldn't otherwise have access to. So it's a broader range. It's a larger reach. And the idea would be to get the best project, hopefully, that we can to come forward. And we're probably going to get the largest or broadest spectrum of folks by going through the broker process, sort of a more traditional listing of the property.
So would it be marketed nationally, just in California, or just regionally? I'm just curious to know how widely we're going to market this.
I mean, maybe if you want, we could have him come up and he can tell you the resources that he uses and how that works, if you'd like.
Sorry. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Steve McCarty with Stafford McCarty Commercial Real Estate. I feel very comfortable asking or answering questions that you have about all this.
Good. So can you tell me what you would do to market it, or exactly how you would market it and how widely you would market it?
We will market the project nationally, hence internationally, with our tools and the subscription services that we buy. LoopNet is one of this. That's part of CoStar now, which is they're linked together. Also, we have a regional. We also subscribe to the MLS. But that's not quite as effective with a lot of the commercial things, but we do have a long history of working with hotel and hospitality. Also, we have extensive work with municipalities and quasi-public agencies. So we're very familiar with this. Also, it gets posted on our website. There's 24-hour access. We try to develop a lot of the due diligence prior to this, so that we work hand in glove with planning and the community, so that when people call in, we kind of have a due diligence package, so they're not constantly coming into the city, well, what about this, what about this, what about that? We say, here's the package. Here's the title report, here's this information, here's the plan, here's the vision, those kind of things.
Okay. Can I ask you if your fees are negotiable?
Our fees have been looked at and have been vetted through the city's attorneys. So we've already, there's been a bite taken out of the apple already. But the answer was yes, they were, and they were negotiated.
So I noticed that the fees, if we decided or if it turned out that we were going to lease the property as opposed to sell the property, would be, I think it was like 5% for some number of years and then drop to 2.5%.
Yes.
So many of our leases on large developments like that could be, and certainly it's true on the leases on the Embarcadero, go up to 50 years if somebody wanted to recoup their investment. Would there be a cap on that?
We can look at that to make sure. Basically, the trigger is if you sold the property or leased it, the fee should be about the same. So we can look at that cap. The city shouldn't be paying more for one than another.
That's what I was concerned about, the way it's currently written. It could go quite high if somebody leased it for 30 years at 2.5%, and you were collecting 2.5% on that.
Right, and a little bit of the deal comes in where these are so specialized things, because with city projects, they can be negotiated things that are there, and they have schedules. There can be leases with options. But I would certainly say that I'm certainly amenable to making the lease or the sale being par value, meaning the same on that, so that's a very reasonable position.
And just the way the contract reads, can it be terminated by the city before the year is up if we feel that you haven't performed adequately?
I think that's under a provision, and I'm not to get into the minutia here, but the point is, if there's cause, it's certainly very reasonable. We have done a lot of public work, and if there's an issue, we talk about it, and if there's cause, we certainly understand those things are going to be there, and that I think there's always that provision in that lease.
Okay, I just would want to make sure that we aren't committed for one solid year, because truthfully, my preference would be to go an RFP, I should say, try it for 3 months and see what happens, and then if we aren't successful, I would like to go with a broker. But that's my preference, and it was my preference before, so I'm going to state it now before we vote on this issue.
I can't say that these are not selling a home, that here's what you see, this is what you. Land deals are extremely complex. We're dealing with a lot of negotiation. We're trying to get public improvements. Again, we've done a lot of municipal work, so the goal is to get the vision, the Centennial Parkway negotiation. So in an RFQ, that's a very difficult thing to have that kind of dialogue going on when it's like, what are you proposing? Here's what we get. So that's the value of what we bring, is trying to get qualified people and say, let's see if we can work out a vision with the city, and that's the advantage of that.
Okay. And do you feel that are you biased in any way towards a sale or lease, or does it matter, in terms of how you intend to market it?
No, again, our position is to get the broad reach and get qualified people. I think that because we stand on, and first of all, we represent the city. We don't do this dual representation thing. So our work is with you. And I think we want to try to see if we can get leasehold interest. That's preferable than a sale.
It is, yes.
This is old school to us, so we understand that. But again, you get qualified people. What can we work out? What's in the gift bag or the goodie bag that the developer needs? And it still has to make sense economically for the developer. But it's a dance that has to be done to make that work.
And just one last question. I believe I asked Scott about whether or not there's been an appraisal of all of the city property, because it seems to me the piece altogether, including the parking lot, the Centennial Parkway area, the DeStasio's, and the parking lot across the street, is a big piece of property, and I'm just curious to know what its current market value is.
And again, I'm comfortable with this as well. First of all, and again, this is from our work with the public agency side, the public has to be good stewards of assets. And you can't beat up the taxpayer with his own money either. So it's a very open book test. And so the appraisal process will be part of any negotiated sale. Again, that's what's difficult about the RFQ. What's the price? What are we doing? We're really saying, who's qualified to do this? Do we like this? Do we like their concept? Do we want to do this? Now, what's a fair price for the property? So then that's where the appraisal process comes in. Like I said, this is a very, very open book test.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions. I don't know.
John?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. I would have pulled it, but you pulled it, so I didn't need to. Thank you. I also met with Scott. Thanks, Scott, for meeting with me. And I had a couple of questions in addition to what Marlis talked about. The first of which was the 2.5% issue, and that was my biggest concern. What's, quote unquote, the balance of the term? You indicated to me most often or often that means an amortization period of, let's say, 20 years when you're looking at leased property, and I like what the proposer has recommended, and that would be on par value for a sale and or lease, that they be equivalent and that we not pay in excess of for leases and what we'd pay for a sale. So if we could amend the contract, I would feel very comfortable with that.
We certainly can do that at direction of council. We could go back, and it seemed that Mr. Riccardi was amenable to that, so it seems like that shouldn't be an issue.
It's very reasonable.
Great. And the other thing that I had two other issues that I discussed that I think are important. One, what does an agency such as yours bring to the table? And in talking with Scott, I'm feeling very comfortable that, one, we get a very broad representation to a much larger audience than we would if we tried to do this on our own, and that there's significant value in terms of the fee being charged to have the availability of that broader audience, both national and international, and the quality of potential lessee that we get and or buyer would be much higher than if we could do it on our own. And so I do believe, in my own mind, there would be a significant return on investment for the investment of retaining the firm. The second was I reached out to Development Department in Santa Maria and in San Luis, talked to a friend there who have worked with these folks, and nothing but very positive comments, wanting to vet you on my own and find out a little bit about you and your firm. I think it's important for us to do that, and again, I did get positive feedback with regard to that. And so I did share your concerns, Councilman McPherson and Councilperson McPherson, excuse me, and feel very comfortable that also, I guess lastly, with regard to the resources available in the department, I know Scott is overwhelmed right now and trying to manage RFQs and RFPs and responding in a timely fashion. And I think what's I liken it to fishing, since we're a fishing community. Once that line has a bite and the pole starts to move, you got to be on the pole right there and start to reel it in. And if Scott's involved in other things because he's trying to balance a number of initiatives, as we know he does at times, or almost all the time, that would be difficult and we could lose potential clients. And so I'm convinced for those reasons that this would be the way to go in order for us to maximize the value proposition for this very important project consideration. Thank you.
All right, John, Matt, or Red?
I did have a question for this, but you've explained the on par, the commission percentages. So with that, and some months ago, as we went through this with our previous marketer, with dealing with Scott and with the department and everything, I'm totally agree with what you've said. I'm ready to move forward with that.
Red? You're good? Okay. Just cover one more thing for you. There was a request to change the contract. Can you just be a little bit more deliberate with that?
Sure. I would propose that a language be added by the city attorney to make sure that, I think in Mr. McCarty's terms, that the potential lease charge or contractual obligation would not exceed the sale obligation. That it would be on par.
Yes.
However, you write that language legally, that would be my request.
And then could we also add that to make it clear that the contract could be terminated by the city before the year is up for cause or non-performance or some such language?
I would choose the word cause.
Is this a 30 with or without?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm just asking, Mr. Pannoni, is this a 30-day term with or without cause?
That's not what this contract is. This contract is for a year.
For a year.
And if you say with cause, do you want the cause to be broad cause or very specific, some breach of the agreement cause, or what?
Well, I would have said cause. I can't define cause, but if for some reason we're not satisfied or we want to terminate the contract because we don't believe we're getting the performance that we thought we were going to, I would like to know that we could terminate within the year, not wait a year. That's my recommendation.
Okay.
But I'll let my other council members weigh in on that issue.
So we've got two requests. One is the potential lease and the cost of that. I think you were asked to do some language on that, and it seems like Mr. McCarty is agreeable to that. Ms. McPherson, you're asking for some clause that would give us an out in less than a year if the performance is not to our liking. Council agrees to. Mr. McCarty, I think we need to get a concurrence on this, because if you're not in concurrence with this, we're not going to get a signed contract, and of course it'll come back to us. I just want to make sure that you're...
In spirit, I don't have a problem with what you're talking about. Okay. It's very reasonable. If we're not doing our job, why should we be continuing that? But to say non-performance when, especially in a public agency, when there are so many delays that happen just by calendaring, scheduling, the complexities of these things, negotiated things that can happen in here, we'd have to define what performance is and what performance isn't. I know that we've got people that we're anxious to talk to, and we want to have this agreement in place so that we can go out and talk to these people. So I'm not worried about us drumming up people that want to have conversations with you. But to find an agreeable thing, that cause thing for non-performance is a little bit ambiguous to me. I would like to say, if we're doing things that are unprofessional.
I'm good with the year's contract, and I was good with the contract coming in. I appreciate some of the comments that we're at, and was ready to do this on consent since we've already been through this discussion at length before. So unless there's some other discussion as to the concern over some limitation to have it less than a year, I'd be inclined to have council move forward on the contract with the minor change to the language on as in regard to the potential lease, and just move forward with a year's contract. That would be my with respect to or comments from our colleague at the, on council, that would be my...
Okay, then could we pull this from our...
Yep, okay.
Thank you.
All right, so I think we're done with the discussion on this. Mr. McCarty, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, it looks like we've got agreement on items A10, A6, and 9, so I would take a motion to approve item A10 as amended, and A6 and A9. We have a motion by Matt and a second by Red on A10, A6, and A9. Any discussion? None? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. Item A11. This particular item, take a motion to approve item A11.
Move to approve item A11 with the changes noted in the fiscal impact cost for the lease language versus buy.
Second. Motion by Mr. Heading, second by Mr. Makowiecki. I was going to say Matt. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. Item A12.
Yeah, I just pulled that in part because I have received some comments from citizens about this item, and it is a long-standing issue that has been before the council, and we have a subcommittee that has been working on this issue, and I just wanted to ask the subcommittee to just give a brief report on are they satisfied with the current proposal that's before us.
Okay, thanks. Yes, this item has come to us over a period of time, and because of the challenges and the issues at hand, council had appointed the subcommittee, myself and Mr. Heading, to help expedite and improve the communication to get to the contract that we have before us. So first of all, I'd like to say thanks to council to entrust us in that, and we got to the contract we have today, and I turned it over to Mr. Heading, and he can add some comments to where we're at. And it was a long-standing work to get here, and I think all staff at hand and Mr. Branch and team, everybody came together and got through it and got it done. So, John?
And my thanks also for the opportunity to work on this issue. I mean that seriously. It's nice to have this come to completion. We spent a significant number of meetings discussing the issue, and for the public, the real issue is perceived significant liability for the city with regard to the seawall failure and revetment and disclosure issues concerning that, and the new leases. And I say leases because now it's a combination of both the boatyard as well as the Otter Rock lease, if approved. And there are a number of lease concessions in there that mitigate the cost of the seawall. That's kind of the bottom line issue. I want to thank Eric Endersby, our harbor director, for a lot of detailed work that he did in providing us with detailed analysis and information, along with our finance directors over the last few months to cost this out. I am personally convinced that this is a quote-unquote good deal for the city, that we have a very viable tenant potential in Mr. Branch, and that the future for this lease site looks very positive, and I believe will vastly improve the performance of both lease sites on the Embarcadero. And so, given the fact that this has been hanging for over a year and a half or almost 2 years, It is nice to see it come to culmination and completion. I want to thank the mayor for working together on this with myself, and we've also spent a number of personal meetings together, vetting this and talking with council, and it's nice to have this completed. And so I'm very comfortable with this. Thank you for asking for our opinion, and I would certainly move approval of A12 this evening.
And I second.
Motion by Mr. Heading, second by Ms. McPherson. Any further discussion? None. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. All right, that concludes our consent. And any interest in a short recess before we get into our first business item? Just a 3-minute recess, and we'll come right back. Thanks.